Welcome to the 101 on Sports here on Fox 2. I'm Randy Karraker. It is great to have you with us as we start the 2023-2024 Blues training camp. And we get a chance to visit with the Blues president of hockey operations and general manager, Doug Armstrong. Always good to see you at this time of year.
It's always great to be seen this time of year.
Well, Army, you've been through a lot of training camps, and you've, as the general manager of this team, put together a lot of clubs where I think you had a pretty good finger on the pulse of what you were going to have. What do you think about this group? Do you really know what to expect from this group that you've put together?
Well, we do have a lot of experienced players here, and we're incorporating some younger guys. It almost reminds me back when I got here in 08, 09. More importantly, when I took over as a manager in 10, we're sort of entering a new area here where we have to redefine ourselves. So there's a lot of different things you look for at a camp like this, and you may have 3 or 4 years ago when you're fighting with the upper echelon teams right out of the gate.
How much pride do you take in that? Because one of the things that I've said about you over the years is you've really built 3 nucleuses or nuclei, but you've been able to do so while continuing to win. And most teams, most franchises that have success aren't able to do that.
Well, I think I appreciate you saying that, and yeah, we're in the winning business, and to do that, you have to make hard decisions. Went probably earlier than people want them made, but that's a job that I'm paid to do, and I do like this group. I like some of our younger players that aren't that aren't that young anymore. And Thomas and Kyrou, at 24 and 25, they're going to have the centerpiece of our group. We still have good veterans, and then you go through a year like last year, and you're able to acquire a number of first round picks. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we could, as you said, turn that transition so it's not a 8, 9, 10-year rebuilding process.
I want to read you a quote from your end of season press conference from after last season. You said, "I said to some of the veteran players that this is the most disconnected I felt with the largest part of our organization, our players. Craig and I have to spend the summer talking to professional people that know what these players go through and what makes them tick." What did you learn during the summer? What does make them tick?
Well, we talked to a lot of different people, or I talked to a lot of different people. I read a couple of different books, and really what I wanted to do was to see if I was on the right path and verify where I was correct or wrong. And I came back, a lot of things came back to that. Not a lot has really changed with these players. They want to win. They want to be competitive, and just how we connect with them. And so I talked to actually the Mizzou people at Mizzou on the recruiting end of their departments and what they went through COVID, how it's affected the young players. And there are things that have changed with these kids, but ultimately at the end of the day, they're young people that want to have success. And we've maybe found a few little things that we're going to try differently and see if they work. But ultimately, I think if we have great communication skills between Craig and I and between our leadership group to them, we can build that bond quickly.
And one of the things I can tell from my standpoint, I don't have the attention span that I had 10 or 20 years ago. And for these people that have literally grown up with a phone in their hand, it's got to be very difficult to apply themselves day after day, hour after hour.
Well, it is, and I think in how you communicate with them, I think it's we were talking about it earlier. It's the why generation. Not only do they want to be instructed, but they want to ask the question, well, why are we doing it that way? And dating ourselves, why was never something we came back with to our parents.
Right, exactly.
It was just do. Yeah. And I think that these guys want to learn because they want to know why so they can do it better. Mm-hmm. And we're accepting of that, but I think the attention span it is a click world we live in right now, and sometimes that's good. And we talked about that a little bit at the end of the year. That you don't want to. I want the players to express themselves. I want them to have joy in doing great offensive things, but if you make a great offensive play and you lose 7-1 and you get 1 million clicks, it's still a 7-1 loss. Right, and so you want to equate that with the personal satisfaction of having a good play to how it affects the organization and the team.
Army, one more thing about this, and that's in regards to the 3 first-rounders you had in the entire draft. Does it change the way you interview players? The difference that young players bring from a personality standpoint to the table, does it change the way you evaluate them from a personality standpoint?
Well, I think that's just changed over the number of years at the Combine. my first probably 5 or 6 years, you would get a player that wasn't scripted. Now they're all have agents at a young age or representatives. The answers are very cookie cutter. They're very well practiced. We have a professional psychologist that does interviews with them to give us some insight. So yeah, there are little tricks that we've learned along the way to try and get really who they are and what they are about. But it's difficult. But yeah, there are different things that we do now because they're not quite as open as quickly as they used to be.
Yeah. It's been now 4 years since the Blues won the Cup. And as I watch the sport, and you've talked about this for a long time, the evolution of the sport, but it really seems to be on hyper speed as the sport changes. What do you think the biggest difference is now in putting together a winning team for 23-24 as opposed to 18-19?
Well, I think where you're at in your maturation of your team, as I said, this is a lot more similar to 2010 as we were starting to build. In 2018, 2019, even though we had missed the playoffs the last day of the season, we felt we had a good team and we went out and added veteran players. This year, we didn't add veteran players, or not certainly to the level and that we did that summer, and we're waiting for internal growth. So I think putting the team together is more of where you're at in your growth patterns.
You made changes to the coaching staff, bringing in Mike Weber for the defense and Michael Babcock for skills. What do you want to accomplish with those two additions?
Well, we'll start with Weber, and I think our defensive game last year wasn't to the level we needed it at, and it certainly wasn't Mike Van Ryan's sole issue. But when you have a bad season, change is made, and a new voice, I thought what was necessary to give the players something fresh coming in here. And Babcock coming in here is basically a skill development job, working with our players, young and old. A lot of guys like to have work after or before without the quote unquote real coaches or the coaches that are behind the bench. So it's something that we're trying differently that I think can help us.
Do you think when you have an individual skills coach, obviously everybody wants to individually help themselves, but you also have to play a team game at the end of the day, right? So you don't want players to be all in on individual skills.
Well, there's different skills. Skills are getting pucks out. Skills are protecting pucks. There are a lot of different skills. It's not just shooting and scoring. It's different ways you can improve your game to help your team. Opening up in the right areas, stick positioning. So there's a lot of things that go into it. Obviously, they want to do the individual offensive skills things, but there's certainly more into that Mike will be responsible for than that.
Before Doug Armstrong and I walked into this room, I was talking to Barrett Jackman about playing a defensive system. And we've gotten spoiled here with Pronger and McInnes and Petro, and we've had great number one defensemen for a long time. But when you talk about a guy like Mike Weber, it seems to me that if you play within a system, that you have a chance to play really good defense. Is that right?
I think so. I think as you see as free agency, has taken hold in our league. Free agency starts at 27 years old, 25 if you come in at the age of 18. Salary cap issues, teams change, so you have to have a foundation in the system. And I think that if we can get our defensive system and structure to be airtight, it's going to help our goaltending. It's going to help our transition game. And so, yeah, of course, would you like to have an alpha male back there like the Blues have had for a number of years? Sure, but they're few and far between. And now I think almost all teams are more system oriented than ever before.
And you do have a lot of depth back there. You really have to be happy with the group of defensemen that you have 1 through 8.
Yeah, we even maybe a little bit deeper than that, except we didn't play well last year. So I think there's a lot of things that as individually and as a team we need to make amends for. And I know these guys are excited to be back here because they really want to get back to their rightful status in the league.
Doug, when you acquired O'Reilly and Bozak and Perron a few years ago, you said at this time of year, hey, we plan on winning a Stanley Cup. What are your expectations for this group that start training camp this week?
Well, I think we're a playoff team. I think we should be competing for a playoff spot. And you see every year that once you get into the playoffs, somebody goes on a run that's not supposed to. Why not us? But what we found last year is you can't go on that run if you're not there. And so our goal is to be competitive every night. And I think if we are, we'll push for that playoff spot when we can get in, and then anything can happen. But as you said, in 19, we had a singular goal. We thought we should be competing for the cup, and we did. This year, we're going to find growth by building a foundation that we can rely and layer on year in, year out. But anything can happen in any one given year. And that's what the veterans know. And that's what we try and install in everybody, is that this isn't something that we don't have expectations to be competitive and successful with.
Thank you, sir. It's always good to see you. Appreciate your time.
Always enjoy it. Thank you very much.
That is Doug Armstrong. He's the president of hockey operations and general manager for your St. Louis Blues. Coming up on the 101 on Sports, we're going to talk to the Blues head coach, Craig Berube. Stick around. We'll be back on Fox 2. Welcome back to the 101 on Sports. Great to have you with us, and great to visit with the head coach of your St. Louis Blues, Craig Berube, and another season, another training camp for you. And it's nice to actually start training camp because you didn't have one of your first year or your second year. It's nice to have a full training camp, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, it's nice to be back in camp. I think it was a long off season for sure. So everybody is pretty, itchy to get back and get after it again.
Coach, this team is younger than you've had in the past. When you walked in, you had a veteran crew. How does that change your approach in training camp, if it does at all?
I think you obviously got to have a little more patience and do more teaching than if you had a full veteran group. But we still have a lot of veterans on this team. With a handful of young guys that are up and coming. But it doesn't change a whole lot. But you gotta have some patience. You got to teach.
And you still have that group, 5 players that were here that won the Stanley Cup, plus Blais and Sundqvist are back. How much do you lean on those veterans with the young players that you have?
Yeah, for sure. I think, veteran players, a big part of their job is to help the young guys out and to, give them advice when they need it and be there for them. And that's really important, and to make them feel comfortable and make them feel a big part of the team, because they are a big part of the team.
That's the thing, is they have to understand that. And that's one thing about players now, is it used to be that a rookie would defer, right? And now you have to make sure that they know that they're really important.
Yeah, well, the league is a younger league now. We all know that. Younger guys are all playing at an earlier age than 10 years ago, for sure. And, it's important. Those guys are great players. They're important. And you got to work with them and teach them and, hold them responsible. But at the same time, you gotta really coach them up. You got to really coach them up, and at the same time, you got to give them constructive criticism.
Chief, you've played with a lot of captains. You've coached a lot of captains. Last week, before camp got underway, the Blues named Braden Shen as their captain. I kind of look at him as a quintessential guy. What makes him a great captain?
Well, I think first and foremost, he has the respect of his teammates and respect the players in the league. He's a good character guy for sure. He's got toughness. I mean, that's a big part of it for me. I mean, he plays the right way, does things right on the ice, and off the ice, he does a lot of good things with his teammates. Like I said, he's a real good teammate. Looks after players, looks after young guys. I mean, very hands-on with a lot of that stuff. That's important as a captain to make sure you're doing that and take care of things. And, it's his first year as a captain, so he's got some learning to do too and growing to do. And it's part of my job and the organization to help him along the way. And he's got good help with his assistant captains, who are good veteran guys that've been around, that won. So he's got some good help, and that's important.
Can you take us behind the curtain in regards to how you interact with your captain?
Well, I think I interact with the captains.
So you have a leadership
core that we got. I think it's just giving them responsibilities before the season of what they need to handle and do and take care of. I think those are real important, and just be once a week, maybe it's more at times. It depends on the situation, but just having conversations with them and going over things. Where we at? What opinions do they got on things? What's the problems around? They got to voice their opinions to me, so we can talk about them. We can solve things and work on things. So I think that's really important, to just have communication with those guys. And it's not like I don't have daily communication with them, but bring them in, have some meetings.
And one of the things you take pride in, you have daily communications with pretty much every player, right? It's some
I
level.
I try to like get in there and talk to guys as much as they can. They're probably sick of seeing me, so they don't always want to see me. But I like to just see how they're doing, see how their families are doing, and make sure things are good, and talk to them about hockey too, where I think they're at and what they need to do better. And that's just big part of the job.
You have two new assistants in Michael Babcock and Mike Weber. How does the chemistry develop between a coaching staff?
Yeah, honestly, I think when you're looking at hiring people, that's a big part of it, in my opinion. Is how are they going to fit in? Are they going to get along with us? Are they going to have the same attitude as us? And I think, our choices this year, these guys fit in really well. They got energy. They know the game extremely well, both of them. I like energy guys. I like guys that talk. I like guys that voice their opinions. I don't want yes guys. I want people that are going to give me new ideas. That's all a big part of it. And I want guys that have great energy.
Specific to Weber and the defense, obviously you set the tone for the system that you're going to have, but how important is that for your group of defensemen that are out on the ice to play within the system on a regular basis?
Well, that's the game, having structure out there in all three zones is, it's one of the most important things. When you don't have structure, it's tough. I mean, you need to have structure. I think that's really important. And, the second thing that's really important is just winning your battles. That's a big thing.
And how do you implement that during camp? Because you said after last season, kind of got away early last year. So how do you focus on that in camp?
Well, we're teaching. We're really teaching. Today was a great day for teaching, but work. And I think you got to do both. You got to get out there and you got to work. You got to compete, and you got to really push your guys and, really teach the system and break it down. And just, you got a lot of time in camp here to work on things and just have real good drills that, you can work on your systems.
One time the Blues had a kid reporter who asked Craig Berube who his favorite player was. And at the time you had Oscar Sundqvist, and you said, well, he's kind of the engine of our team. He's back. What does he bring to your group?
Well, exactly that. I mean, he's a great energy guy. He's got a lot of toughness. That's a big thing for me. Having people that are committed to doing the little things, blocking shots, checking, taking hits to make plays, giving hits, all that stuff. That's what Sonny does. And he brings that every night. He's an identity player.
Do you enjoy the turnover that you have? It seems like you almost have to have some churn to keep moving forward.
Yeah, today's world and free agency and everything, the salary cap, there's going to be turnover every year, and that's part of the game. I don't have an issue with it.
And one of the things that we're looking at with this team, obviously, is it's an organization that's used to being in the playoffs. How do you get back? What's the key for this year's Blues squad to get back to where you expect to be?
Well, I think a big part of it is being a team. It's hard to win in this league if you're not a real tight group on and off the ice and doing things that that are needed to win. And again, I'll bring up toughness. We got to be tough. We got to be hard. We got to be selfless. And you got to have discipline. You have those things, and you have a team that really wants to play for each other and win for each other and work for each other. You can have success. You don't have to have the most talented group either. It's just all that stuff combined, and you do it night in and night out, and you have that consistency. You have a chance to get in there.
From the time you were a little kid and started playing, from the time I was a little kid and started watching, we heard the word sacrifice, and that really is the ultimate word if you're going to succeed, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. You have to sacrifice, and you got to make sacrifices like on and off the ice as a player to be a good pro. And then you got to make sacrifices as a team, individually and collectively as a team, to have success.
Chief, thanks for your time. Have a great season. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Craig Berube with us on the 101 on Sports. Coming up, we're going to talk to one of Coach's forwards, Jake Neighbours. Stick around with the 101 on Sports here on Fox 2. Welcome back to the 101 on Sports. I'm Randy Karraker. Great to have you with us here on Fox 2. And it's always great to talk to Blues forward Jake Neighbours heading into what is hopefully an 82-game season in the NHL. Jake, good to see you. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Everything is good. Now, last year, you got a chance to play a lot. You were obviously bothered by injuries. But how much value did you get out of last year and the experience that you got?
Yeah, a ton. I think, even going down to the American League a couple times and, going up and down, it's good experience as a young guy to go through that and, deal with the adversity. And, any experience you can get at the pro level is great for your game. And, battling injuries is obviously one thing a player never wants to do, but once again, it's a little bit of adversity and it's something that makes you a bit mentally tougher.
I think one of the things that we don't appreciate as fans is the grind that you have to go through, not just the things on the ice, but in preparing yourself to play. What's that like for you?
Yeah, obviously it's a lot of work. You got to make sure your body's taken care of and, you're stretching and doing the right things off the ice and obviously getting workouts in to maintain muscle and, make sure you're strong and fast for the season. And, and then in season, you're, obviously balancing playing an 82-game season and, lots of practices and things like that. So, it is a grind, but it's something that, I'm still learning about and learning off my teammates. And, there's a lot of guys in that room that do a great job of it. So
I was going to ask you about a teammate because you have a great medical staff, a great strength staff, but among your teammates, who have you kind of leaned on to get into the NHL lifestyle?
Yeah, for me, it was Braden Shen. During the COVID year when I was drafted, I came up in December and spent Christmas with him and his family living in his house. And, he was quick to teach me all the tips and tricks of the league and, all the little things that you got to do to make sure, you're getting a step ahead of the competition. So he's been such a big impact for me early on in my career. And, I'm very lucky to have that guy.
So you may have just told us what makes him the perfect captain. But aside from that, when you found out that he was going to wear the C for the Blues, what did you think? And what makes you believe that, because I know you do, that he's perfect for the job?
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise for me. Once I heard that they were going to name a captain, I was pretty sure that it was going to be Schenner. He's obviously the man for the job. He's, someone that you can go to for anything, whether it be, off the ice or on the ice. And, I think specifically as a player, he's a great presence in our locker room and, someone that gets to know all of his teammates and make sure all of his teammates are getting to know each other. He really brings the group together. And obviously what he does on the ice speaks for itself. He's a presence out there. He plays physical. He's got a lot of skill and, you're almost guaranteed 50, 60 points out of him every single year. So, he does it all for us and, I couldn't be happier for him.
Jake, Blues fans love your game. You play both ends of the ice. You're a great passer. You're going to put the puck in the net. What, though, is the aspect of your game that you want to work on most during this training camp?
Yeah, I think just continuing to improve offensively is the biggest thing. I think as a young guy coming in the league, you're obviously playing against men, and you need to be ready for that. And obviously the style of game, there's not a lot of mistakes out there. So when you do get your opportunities, you need to bear down and finish them, and that's something I want to do more of. And, obviously continue to improve my defensive game as well, being reliable for my coaches and my teammates. So, that's only going to help me get out there more and help the team get wins.
Jake Neighbours, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it. Have a great season.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Our thanks to Jake Neighbours, along with the Blues President of Hockey Operations and GM Doug Armstrong, and of course, Head Coach Craig Berube. And we thank you for tuning in to the 101 on Sports. For videographer Zane Graham and Joey Goldsmith, I'm Randy Karraker, and we'll see you next week right here on Fox 2.